did you initially become involved in this case?
Well, very interesting. I live in Los Angeles, and I saw something in the Boston Globe about this case, but I really didn't pay much attention to it. And then eventually I saw or heard something, because I'm not from this part of the Massachusetts. You know, I'm from a different part of Massachusetts. So anyways, eventually I heard or saw something about there being an issue with some possible dog-inflicted injuries versus maybe car-inflicted injuries. So that got my attention. I thought, that's interesting. And so that's how I initially became aware of the case.
Let's talk about the Boston Globe. How is a person from Los Angeles reading the Boston Globe? And why? Is it like a one-time thing, or why is it you're reading the Boston Globe?
You know, I had a subscription. I would, not always read it. I lived in Massachusetts. I went to school in Massachusetts. I worked in Massachusetts as a police officer. So I have some interest in Massachusetts, but none of that was in this geographic area. It was all north of Boston. So that was the area I mostly paid attention to.
Did you reach out to anyone after reading that article? And what do you recall from the article in the Boston Globe, if anything?
I'm going to sustain that objection.
Did you reach out to anyone after having read something in the Boston Globe?
Yes. I thought the question was interesting.
Objection.
I'll let that stand, but just answer Mr. Alessi's question, please.
Yes, I did.
Go ahead. Answer.
Okay. Yes, I reached out to one of the DAs in Los Angeles County.
And at that point, what, if anything, did you know about this case?
I didn't know much. I just knew what I mentioned, and I knew that the decedent was a police officer, had been a police officer, and that interested me also because I was a police officer.
Please keep your voice up, Dr. Russell.
I said that interested me also because I had been a police officer at the time.
Go ahead.
So that's about all I knew, really.
Right. So did you know anything about what the prosecution was claiming or the defense was claiming at all? Did you know anything?
Objection. Sustained.
What did you know, if anything, about the case?
I'm going to see its eyebrow really quickly on this.
Dr. Hev, in terms of, Mr. Wolk, if we could please, and Your Honor, may we publish what is already in evidence, which is Exhibit 167?
Okay.
Dr. Russell, do you recognize Exhibit 167?
Yes.
And how do you recognize that? Well, first let's start, what is it, and then how do you recognize it?
It is a picture of the decedent's right arm and forearm.
Now, without stating what it is, have you been able to form an opinion as to the source and nature of the wounds that are depicted in that exhibit?
Yes.
Now, in terms of the next area, can you describe for the jury what method you used in forming your opinion without yet stating what your opinion is?
Well, I used pattern recognition and differential diagnosis.
So let's start with wound pattern recognition. Is that the wound pattern recognition you've been discussing up to this point in your testimony?
Yes.
And did I hear you use the phrase differential diagnosis?
Yes.
Please tell the jury what you mean by the term differential diagnosis as a physician, emergency medicine physician and forensic pathologist?
So when a patient, when a physician sees a patient, and or an image in this case, and is attempting to make a diagnosis, it's very important that not only do they consider what they believe is the obvious, but also in their mind go through other possible diagnoses and determine if they can rule them out, so to speak. If they can rule them in, rule them out, so that they are not just focused on one thing, but they've actually given consideration to other conditions that may be causing whatever it is that they see.
So, Mr. Wolk, if you could take that, we're going to come back to this back and forth, but I'd like to have it taken down until we do have the need to, and if we could have the lights go back on, Your Honor. Thank you. So, does applying a differential diagnosis, well, let me start out. Do you understand what confirmation bias is?
I believe so.
Yes. And does differential diagnosis assist or not assist in avoiding confirmation bias?
I believe it assists in avoiding confirmation bias.
So, in terms of differential diagnosis, did you apply that concept in the beginning of your analysis of this case?
Yes.
How did you apply differential diagnosis to, among other things, avoid confirmation bias in this case?
Well, in my mind, I went through other possible things or causes of wounds on an arm, and what they would look like, and the configuration, the patterns, etc. And then I figured out why these other potential causes of wounds in the arm did not fit this case.
So is a phraseology a synonym for differential diagnosis, what doctors call ruling out something? Is that another way to say it as well?
Yes.
So we're going to come back to the differential diagnosis. I just wanted to have that question first. Now let's switch to the materials that you considered in forming your opinion about the nature and source of the wounds to Mr. O'Keefe. Describe what you looked at in terms of coming to your opinion, conducting a differential diagnosis, and avoiding confirmation bias. What did you look at?
Well, I looked at pictures similar to this. So there were pictures taken at the hospital. There were pictures taken at the medical examiner's office. I looked at the medical records. I looked at the autopsy report, and I looked at other reports from the Massachusetts State Police, and then those are some of the things I looked at.
Did you look at any photographs, including of clothing?
Of what?
Clothing?
Oh yeah, clothing, of course.
What clothing did you look at?
So there was a shirt like a hoodie shirt that I looked at that had many defects in it.
And when you say defects, what do you mean by defects? Is there a more layperson's term?
Holes?
Thank you. Did you look at any history of any dogs with regard to any municipalities and dog incidents?
I'm going to sustain that, Mr. Alessi.
Did you look at any municipal records with regard to your review in this case?
So that's sustained.
With regard to other documents, if any, could you describe any other documents that you looked at?
Well, I also...
I'm going to see what...
May I continue, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience, Dr. Russell. We had broke off where you had described the materials that you had reviewed. Based on your, and Mr. Wolk, if we could please put the exhibit that we just had, and with Your Honor's permission, republish it. Thank you. Based on your review of all the materials that you had described and your experience that you had described, without stating it, were you able to come to any conclusions or opinions about the source and nature of the injuries that you see depicted on that exhibit?
Yes.
And what is your opinion and conclusion concerning those injuries?
Those wounds were inflicted as the result of a dog attack.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you speak a little louder?
They were inflicted as the result of a dog attack.
And how did you form that opinion? Just describe your thought process to the jury.
Well, there are multiple groupings of wounds.
Do you have the pointer?
I
there?
do. Let's see.
And if you could use the screen that Her Honor has requested.
So there are multiple groupings of wounds right here. Here's one on the what I'll consider the upper arm, which is above the elbow. Here's another grouping. Here's an interesting, complex grouping at the elbow. These are all the posterior surface of the arm. And there's another grouping down here on the forearm. These multiple groupings are patterns. And they are, in my opinion, were inflicted by the teeth and claws of a dog.
We've discussed previously pattern recognition skills and methodology, and you just mentioned the word pattern here. Can you elaborate on what you mean by pattern with regard to this exhibit?
So there are groupings, and one can see that these wounds are going essentially in the same direction. They are oriented in the same way on the almost from the inner, close to the inner surface of the arm or the anterior surface towards the posterior surface.
What is
of the
the
arm.
significance, if any, of that orientation you just described?
So what that gives me direction, and that tells me that the dog's teeth were over here. The dog is over on this side of the arm, and the teeth started their punctures or their injuries over here, and through either the action of the dog or a combination of the action of the dog and the action of the decedent pulling away, or the victim pulling away, the teeth made these abrasions in this direction, from here down to here. And then here it's very complex because of the bending of the elbow. We don't know the exact configuration of what this elbow was in the arm. Was it fully extended, meaning it's fully stretched out, or was it partially bent? Was it fully bent? We don't know. But in addition to the pulling away movement, there's also the bending movement. So that one is even a little bit more complex. And of course, there are some additional marks down here and some possible bruising down here, punctate marks down here, which may represent the lower teeth.
If we could just stop at that area, have you observed in your experience what you call that complex area pattern? Have you seen that before?
Not that exact pattern, no.
But have you seen any that is similar to it?
I've seen some characteristics of these patterns before,
Right.
yes.
And it is the appropriate methodology to zero in on one section, or is the appropriate pattern methodology to look at all the wounds and then reach a conclusion?
The second, to look at all the wounds.
And
Okay,
could you
so-
please describe...
Why don't we take our recess?
Okay, Your Honor.
Okay?
Thank you.